I stare at my phone as the notifications flood in. You ruined our vacation. The guilt hits my chest like a physical blow. But as I sit alone in my quiet apartment while my family is at a resort without me, I feel something else. Relief. For the first time in years, I am not changing diapers, wiping noses, or being my sister's unpaid nanny. The moment I slipped away at the airport was the first time I chose myself. Most people see their 30s as a time to build their careers and maybe start their own families. At 32, I was still trying to pay off my student loans on a graphic designer's salary while living in a one-bedroom apartment that could generously be described as cozy. Not exactly the American dream I had envisioned for myself. But that wasn't what bothered me most. It was the constant struggle to maintain any kind of independence when my sister Amanda seemed to think my time belonged to her. Amanda is 35, married to Troy, and mother to 4-year-old twins, Jack and Jill. From the moment those babies came home from the hospital, I became the go-to babysitter. It always started the same way. A desperate call from Amanda claiming she just needed a tiny favor, just this once. "Dixie, please, I have a doctor's appointment and Troy is working late. It's just for 2 hours, I promise." But 2 hours would turn into 5. A Friday evening would extend into the entire weekend. And somehow, I never saw a penny for my time. Don't get me wrong, I adore those twins. Jack with his curious questions about everything under the sun, and Jill with her contagious belly laugh. I cherish being their aunt. I just wished it could be on my terms sometimes. Family helps family, my mom Carol would say whenever I tried to bring up the issue. Dad would nod in agreement, adding, "That's just what we do, sweetheart." What puzzled me was why this family duty only seemed to apply to me. My older brother Derek lived just 2 states away, but no one ever expected him to rearrange his life for childcare duties. When I pointed this out once, my mom simply said, "Well, he's got his own career to worry about." As if mine didn't matter. The pattern had taken its toll. I'd canceled more dates than I could count. I'd turned down networking events that could have advanced my career. I'd even missed my best friend's wedding because Amanda had a family emergency that turned out to be a spa day she had booked months in advance. 3 months ago, I finally started therapy, hoping to understand why I couldn't seem to say no to my family. Doctor. Winters listened patiently to my stories before gently suggesting that I might need to establish some boundaries. "Boundaries aren't walls," she explained. "They're fences with gates that you control." I was still processing this advice when everything came to a head during our regular Sunday dinner at my parents' house. Amanda arrived late as usual, looking suspiciously excited about something. "I have amazing news," she announced as she piled mashed potatoes onto her plate. "I booked us all a family vacation to Florida." My parents clapped in delight. "Oh, how wonderful!" Mom exclaimed. "When is it?" I asked cautiously. "In 3 weeks," Amanda replied. "I got us an amazing deal on this beachfront resort. The suite has 3 bedrooms plus a kid's room. Mom and Dad get 1 room, Troy and I get 1. Derek can have the small one if he comes, and you can stay with the twins in the kids' room. It'll be perfect." I nearly choked on my water. The arrangement was so transparent it was insulting. This wasn't a vacation for me. This was Amanda recruiting me for a week of round, the clock childcare, so she and Troy could enjoy themselves. As everyone chatted excitedly about beaches and theme parks, I sat in stunned silence. The worst part wasn't even the presumption that I would go along with this plan. It was the realization that no one at the table found it strange or unfair. In their minds, this was my role. This was normal. "I'm not sure I can make it," I said quietly as dessert was being served. 5 heads turned toward me in perfect synchronization, faces displaying identical expressions of confusion. "What do you mean?" Amanda asked, her voice immediately taking on the wounded tone I'd come to dread. "I have some big projects at work right now, and I don't think I can take the time off." This wasn't entirely untrue. I had been hoping for a promotion that would require extra effort over the coming months. "But this is family vacation," my mother interjected, as if those 3 words trumped any possible excuse. "The twins have been talking about going to the beach with their Auntie Dixie for days," Amanda added, her eyes already glistening with tactical tears. Jack even drew a picture of you building sandcastles together. My resolve began crumbling immediately. The thought of disappointing the kids always hit me right in my weakest spot. Maybe I can talk to my boss, I conceded, hating myself for backpedaling so quickly. That's the spirit, Dad said, already considering the matter settled. Over the next 2 weeks, Amanda's campaign intensified. Daily texts arrived about what activities I could do with the twins. The resort has a kids club, but Jack and Jill would much rather have fun with you. Or, bring that sun hat you wore last summer. The twins want matching ones. Each message assumed my participation and further defined my role as designated childminder. I tried bringing up my concerns during a coffee meetup with Amanda, but she brushed them aside. Don't be silly, Dixie. We'll all take turns with the kids. It'll be fun. But I'd heard that promise before, and somehow those turns never materialized. The memory of last Thanksgiving flashed in my mind, Amanda and Troy disappearing for a 2-hour quick shopping trip that left me managing twin meltdowns through dinner preparation. Dr. Winters encouraged me to practice setting boundaries during our weekly session. You have the right to say no without justifying yourself, she reminded me. No is a complete sentence. Easy to say in the safety of her office. Much harder when facing the full force of family expectation. My breaking point came 1 week before the trip. I returned home from work to find a large bag sitting outside my apartment door with a note from Amanda. Essential childcare supplies for the trip. Thank you so much for being the best auntie ever. Inside were pull-ups for nighttime, special snacks for picky eaters, children's sunscreen, and a handwritten schedule of the twins' nap times and meal preferences. There was also a list of potentially triggering topics to avoid around Jack, who had recently developed some anxiety issues. The presumption took my breath away. Not once had Amanda actually asked if I was willing to take on this responsibility. It had simply been assigned to me, as if my time and autonomy meant nothing. That same evening, my boss Sarah called me into her office before I left work. Dixie, I've been impressed with your designs lately, she said. We have a potential new client coming in next week, exactly during my planned vacation days. If you could take the lead on this presentation, it could mean a promotion and raise. My heart sank. Next week was the Florida trip. For a moment, I pictured myself explaining to Sarah that I couldn't pursue this career, changing opportunity because I had to watch my sister's children while she enjoyed adult-only activities at a resort. When I got home, something compelled me to check Amanda's purse while she was in the bathroom. Maybe it was suspicion. Maybe it was self-preservation. What I found confirmed my worst fears. A printed itinerary showing couples massages, sunset cruises, and adults-only excursions, all neatly scheduled throughout the week. Next to each activity was a note. Dixie with kids. Even worse, I discovered the receipt showing my parents had paid for everyone's trip expenses. Amanda, Troy, the twins, even buying Derek's ticket in hopes he might join. Everyone except me. I was expected to pay my own way for the privilege of providing free childcare. I closed the purse and leaned against the wall, feeling something shift inside me. This wasn't about a vacation anymore. This was about years of having my boundaries trampled and my time devalued. Something had to change. The day of departure arrived, with gray skies that matched my mood. I had packed a small suitcase, still unsure what I was going to do. My inner conflict had kept me awake all night, the desire to please my family battling against my newfound sense that this situation was fundamentally unfair. Amanda arrived at 7 in the morning with the twins still in their pajamas and clearly cranky from being woken early. "Thank goodness you're ready," she exclaimed, immediately handing me Jill's backpack. "Can you get them some breakfast at the airport? Troy forgot to feed them before we left." Before I could respond, she was directing Troy to load my suitcase into their minivan. The car ride to the airport was chaotic, with Jack crying about leaving his favorite toy truck at home and Amanda ignoring him while scrolling through her phone. "I booked us all aisle seats," she announced, "except you'll be in the middle seat between the twins, of course." Of course. In the cramped back seat with a child on either side of me, I felt the familiar weight of resentment building in my chest. Jack had fallen asleep against my arm while Jill was asking me endless questions about airplanes. Meanwhile, Amanda and Troy chatted excitedly in the front seats about their plans for adults' night out at the resort. At the airport, everything moved in a blur. Amanda thrust the twins' passports and boarding passes into my hands while she and Troy handled the luggage check. I found myself automatically guiding the children toward the security line, falling into my assigned role without question. "I need to use the bathroom," I told Amanda, suddenly desperate for a moment alone. Inside the stall, I leaned against the door and tried to breathe. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Just confirming you're available for the client meeting next week? This could be big for you." That's when it hit me. Nothing would change unless I changed it. No one was going to suddenly recognize my right to my own life. I had to claim it for myself. I stepped out of the stall and looked at myself in the mirror. My face was pale, my eyes wide with anxiety, but something else was there too, determination. I walked out of the bathroom with my mind made up. Instead of heading back to my family, I positioned myself behind a large column where I could see them, but they couldn't see me. Amanda was already looking impatient, checking her watch and scanning the crowd for me. The twins were sitting on a bench with Troy, who was absorbed in his phone. It was now or never. I turned and walked quickly toward the exit, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. Outside, I hailed an Uber and gave my home address, half expecting someone to stop me, to call my name, to pull me back into the role I was abandoning. But no one did. As the car pulled away from the curb, I turned off my phone, unable to face the immediate fallout. Tears streamed down my face, a mixture of guilt, fear, and overwhelming relief. "You okay back there?" the driver asked, meeting my eyes in the rearview mirror. "I will be," I replied, surprised to find I actually believed it. The Uber was about to turn onto the main road when another vehicle pulled up alongside us at the light. I glanced over and froze. It was a man in a pilot's uniform, and not just any man, Jordan Turner, my high school crush who I hadn't seen in years. He was looking right at me, recognition dawning on his face. The light changed and my driver pulled away, but not before Jordan raised his hand in a half wave. I turned to watch his car recede behind us, a surreal moment in an already surreal day. When I arrived home, I collapsed on my couch, emotionally exhausted but also experiencing a strange lightness. For the first time in years, the next few hours were entirely mine. No sticky hands pulling at my clothes, no demands for snacks or stories, just silence and the freedom to fill it however I chose. Eventually, I knew I would have to turn my phone back on and face the consequences of my decision. But for now, I allowed myself to simply breathe. Just as I was making myself a cup of tea, there was a knock at my door. My heart jumped to my throat, certain it would be an angry family member who had somehow tracked me down. Instead, when I peered through the peephole, I saw a man in a pilot's uniform holding what looked like my wallet. "Jordan?" I opened the door in confusion. He smiled, a little uncertainly. "Dixie Barrett. I thought that was you crying in an Uber. You dropped this in the terminal." He handed me my wallet, which I hadn't even realized was missing. "How did you know where I live?" "Your ID," he explained. "I hope it's okay. I was heading this direction anyway." As I invited him in for a quick coffee, the least I could offer for his trouble, he studied my face with unexpected perception. "You know," he said quietly, "sometimes the bravest thing is disappointing people who take advantage of you." His words hit me with surprising force. Somehow, this man I barely knew anymore had seen through to the heart of my situation in seconds. I felt a flicker of something I hadn't experienced in a long time, the feeling of being truly seen. Jordan didn't stay long, but before leaving, he wrote his number on a notepad by my door. "If you ever want to talk about it or anything else, give me a call." Left alone again, I finally gathered the courage to turn my phone back on. As expected, the notifications began flooding in immediately. Missed calls, voicemails, texts, each more frantic or angry than the last. The first wave was confusion. "Where are you? Did you get lost? We're holding the plane." Then came concern. "Are you hurt? Should we call the police? Please let us know you're safe." Finally, as reality set in, the tone shifted to outrage. "I can't believe you'd do this to us. The twins are devastated. How could you be so selfish?" The last text, sent just minutes ago from Amanda, was simply in all caps, "You ruined our vacation." I set the phone down and walked to my window, watching the afternoon light play on the buildings across the street. The guilt was still there, but it no longer consumed me. Alongside it was something new and fragile, the first tender shoots of self-respect. 3 days passed in a strange, peaceful blur. I threw myself into work with an intensity I hadn't known I possessed. Without constant interruptions from Amanda or the obligation to rush to her aid at a moment's notice, I completed a week's worth of designs in just 2 days. Sarah noticed immediately. "Whatever's gotten into you, Dixie, keep it up," she said, reviewing my portfolio mock, ups for the new client. "This is exactly the initiative I've been waiting to see." Home was equally transformed. I deep cleaned my apartment, tried recipes I'd been saving for months, and even started the painting I'd abandoned a year ago when Amanda needed emergency weekend childcare because she was too exhausted to parent. My phone continued to buzz with notifications, but I'd established a system checking messages once in the morning and once before bed, responding only to work-related communications. My family's texts had evolved from anger to manipulation. The twins cried themselves to sleep asking for you. "Mom is considering coming home early because she's so worried about you. I hope you're happy knowing you've ruined everyone's time." Each message was designed to pierce my armor of resolve, but with distance came clarity. I could now see the pattern that had defined our relationship for years. Amanda creating situations where I was forced to sacrifice my needs for hers, followed by guilt if I resisted. On the 4th day, I received a call from Grace, a friend I'd gradually lost touch with over the years, as Amanda's demands consumed more of my time. "I saw your family's in Florida from Amanda's posts," she said. "Thought I'd check if you wanted to grab lunch since you're probably enjoying some rare freedom." The comment struck me as odd. "Wait, what posts?" "On Instagram. The whole Best Family Vacation Ever series she's been posting, though I noticed you're not in any of the photos." After we hung up, curiosity drove me to check Amanda's social media, something I rarely did these days. What I found left me speechless. There was my sister, posting daily updates about their magical family adventure with captions like, "Making memories that will last forever," and nothing better than quality time with the people who matter most. In every photo, she and Troy posed with the twins, looking like the perfect nuclear family. But it was her stories that really caught my attention. Amanda was sharing mom tips about traveling with young children, presenting herself as some kind of parenting expert who does it all. She even had a highlight reel called Supermom Moments that featured activities I recognized all too well because I had been the one doing them with the twins while she took photos from the sidelines. There was the science project I'd helped Jack complete while Amanda was getting her hair done, the ballet routine I'd practiced with Jill for weeks when Amanda claimed she was too busy to learn the steps, even the twins' 4th birthday party that I had planned, shopped for, and executed while Amanda posted pictures as if she'd orchestrated everything herself. For years, she had been constructing this careful public image of maternal devotion while outsourcing the actual work to me, and I had allowed it. The realization didn't make me angry as much as it made me sad. My sister wasn't just taking advantage of me. She was living a lie that must have been exhausting to maintain. That evening, Jordan called to check on me. We ended up talking for 2 hours, our conversation flowing with surprising ease. Unlike most people in my life, he asked questions and actually listened to the answers. "Have you always been the family fixer?" he asked at one point. The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "Some families have roles they assign to each member. Sounds like yours decided you were the responsible one, the one who sacrifices to keep everyone else comfortable." His insight hit with uncomfortable accuracy. I guess I never thought of it that way. "Maybe it's time to write a new role for yourself," he suggested. After we hung up, I reached out to Grace and arranged to meet for coffee the next day. It was time to reconnect with the parts of my life I'd allowed to wither while tending to Amanda's needs. Grace hugged me tightly when we met. "I've missed you, stranger." "I've missed me too," I replied, surprising myself with the admission. We spent hours catching up, and I found myself telling her everything: the airport escape, the revelation about Amanda's social media fabrications, even my reconnection with Jordan. "I'm proud of you," Grace said, squeezing my hand. "I tried to tell you years ago that Amanda was taking advantage, but you weren't ready to hear it." "I remember. I got so defensive. Because that's what happens in families like yours. The person maintaining the boundary gets labeled the troublemaker, while the one crossing boundaries gets protected." As we parted, Grace made me promise not to disappear again. "Your family will try to pull you back into the old pattern. Be prepared for that." Her warning proved prophetic sooner than I expected. Later that day, I received a text from my mother informing me that the family would be returning tomorrow, one day earlier than planned. The subtext was clear: prepare yourself for a reckoning. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my apartment, rehearsing what I would say when they inevitably showed up at my door. For the first time, I wasn't planning to apologize or capitulate. I was preparing to stand my ground. Morning came with a surprising sense of calm. I went to work, presented my designs to the potential client alongside Sarah, and received immediate positive feedback. As we left the meeting, Sarah pulled me aside. "The partners were impressed," she said. "If you keep this up, that promotion is looking very likely." I was still floating on this professional high when my phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. "We're back. Family meeting at your place. 5 o'clock. Not a request. A command." I took a deep breath and typed, "I'll be working until 6. I can meet at 6:30. A small boundary, but a start. At exactly 6:30, my doorbell rang with an aggressive persistence that could only be Amanda. I opened the door to find not just my sister, but my entire family. Mom, Dad, Troy, and the twins crowded in the hallway. Amanda pushed past me without waiting for an invitation, the others trailing behind like a somber parade. "Auntie Dixie!" The twins broke from the tension, running to hug my legs. Despite everything, my heart melted at their touch. I knelt to embrace them properly, breathing in their familiar scent of sunscreen and cherry shampoo. "We missed you," Jill whispered in my ear. "I missed you too, sweetie," I replied honestly. Amanda cleared her throat loudly. "Children, go play with the toys in Auntie Dixie's spare room." "I don't have a spare room," I corrected her. "But I set up some coloring books and crayons on the kitchen table for you guys." Once the twins were settled, the real confrontation began. Amanda stood with her arms crossed, sunburned face tight with righteous anger. "Do you have any idea what you put us through?" she demanded. "We almost called the police." "I texted Mom once I got home," I reminded her. "You all knew I was safe." "That's not the point," Amanda's voice rose. "You abandoned us at the airport without a word." The twins were devastated. The hotel charged us extra because we had to change the room configuration. Dad had to carry all the bags himself. Mom had to watch the kids during our couple's massage. My father shifted uncomfortably at this last complaint, avoiding my eyes. "I'm sorry for any inconvenience," I said carefully, "but I needed to make a choice for myself for once." "Selfish is what it was," Mom interjected, her disappointment cutting deeper than Amanda's anger. "Family doesn't do that to family." "That's right," I agreed, surprising them. "Family doesn't do that to family. Family doesn't consistently take advantage of one member. Family doesn't volunteer someone for unpaid childcare without asking. Family doesn't book a vacation where one person is expected to work while everyone else relaxes." A heavy silence followed my words. "That's not fair," Amanda finally said, her voice smaller. "You love spending time with the twins." "I do love them. But there's a difference between being their aunt and being their unpaid nanny." Troy, who had been silent until now, looked between his wife and me with growing discomfort. "What do you mean, unpaid nanny?" he asked slowly. I walked to my desk and retrieved a notebook where I'd started tracking my time with the twins. I'd originally done it as an exercise suggested by Dr. Winters to help me visualize how much of my life was being consumed by my sister's demands. "In the past year," I said, "I've provided approximately 970 hours of childcare for Jack and Jill. At the average rate for a nanny in this area, that's worth about $19,400. The room went so quiet I could hear the twins humming to themselves in the kitchen. "I never asked you to keep track," Amanda sputtered. "That's so transactional." "I'm not asking to be paid," I clarified. I'm trying to show you the scale of what you've been demanding from me. 970 hours. That's 24 full-time work weeks. Half a year of full-time work. My father ran a hand over his face, looking suddenly older. Dixie, honey, we had no idea it was that much. Because no one ever asked. No one ever checked if I had other plans before telling me I was needed for childcare. It was just expected that I would always be available. Amanda's face flushed deeper. Well, if it's such a burden, maybe you shouldn't see the twins at all anymore. The threat hit exactly where it was meant to my love for her children, but this time I refused to be manipulated. That would hurt them and me, I said steadily. And it would hurt you and Troy too, since you clearly rely on my help. What I'm asking for isn't to end our relationship, but to change it. I want to be asked, not told. I want my time to be respected. I want to be Aunt Dixie, not Nanny Dixie. Amanda opened her mouth to retort when Troy suddenly spoke up. She's right, Amanda. Everyone turned to look at him in surprise. What? Amanda asked, clearly blindsided. I said she's right. Troy moved to stand closer to me. I had no idea how much you were relying on your sister. You always told me Dixie volunteered to take the kids because she had nothing better to do with her time. You said your parents were paying her to help out. Now, it was my turn to be shocked. You said what? Mom gasped. Amanda Louise, we never gave Dixie a dime. We offered once and you said she refused payment because it was family helping family. The web of deception began unraveling before our eyes. Troy turned to face his wife fully, his expression a mixture of anger and confusion. What else haven't you told me? I'm starting to wonder if I even know who you are. Amanda's composure cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she looked frantically around the room for an ally, finding none. You don't understand the pressure I'm under, she sobbed. Everyone expects me to be the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the perfect daughter. I can't do it all myself. No one can, I said quietly. That's the point. But lying about it and exploiting people who love you isn't the answer. For a moment, I saw something rare in Amanda's eyes, genuine remorse. But it quickly hardened back into defensiveness. Fine. We don't need your help anyway. Come on, Troy. Let's get the kids and go. Troy didn't move. I think we need to talk about this more, Amanda. All of us. There's nothing to discuss. She's made her position clear. Amanda stormed into the kitchen. Jack, Jill, time to go. The twins protested, not wanting to leave their coloring project unfinished, but Amanda was already bundling them toward the door. Troy followed reluctantly, mouthing I'm sorry to me as he passed. After they left, my parents remained, looking shocked by the revelations. We really had no idea it had gotten so out of hand, Dad said softly. I know, I replied, finding I actually believed him. But you did enable it. Every time you told me family helps family instead of acknowledging that what was being asked of me wasn't fair. Mom wiped away tears. We just wanted everyone to get along. We never meant for you to feel used. I know that too, I said, suddenly exhausted. But intentions don't change impact. As they prepared to leave, Mom hugged me tightly. We'll fix this somehow, Dixie. I promise. Just don't give up on us. I hugged her back, feeling the familiar comfort of her embrace despite everything. I'm not giving up. I'm just asking for change. After they left, I collapsed on my couch, emotionally drained but oddly peaceful. For the first time in my adult life, I had spoken my truth to my family and stood firm. Whatever came next, I would face it with this newfound strength. My phone buzzed with a text. I expected more family drama, but instead found a message from Jordan. How did it go? Want to talk about it over dinner tomorrow? A smile spread across my face as I typed back, yes, I'd like that very much. The aftermath of the confrontation rippled through my family like a stone thrown into still water. For 2 weeks, communication was sparse and tense. Amanda refused to speak to me directly, sending only curt texts when absolutely necessary. My parents called every few days, their tone cautious as if testing the new boundaries of our relationship. Meanwhile, my own life began to flourish in unexpected ways. The client presentation had been a success, and Sarah officially offered me the promotion I'd been working toward for years. "You've really stepped up, Dixie," she said as she presented the offer letter. "I always knew you had this potential. I just never saw you prioritize yourself enough to reach it." Her words resonated deeply with me. How many opportunities had I missed because I'd been conditioned to put everyone else's needs before my own? Jordan and I began dating, our relationship unfolding with a refreshing honesty and mutual respect I'd never experienced before. On our third date, as we walked along the riverfront, he asked what had prompted my airport escape. "I finally realized no one was going to give me permission to prioritize myself," I explained. "I had to take it." He nodded thoughtfully. "My mother was a lot like your sister, always taking, rarely giving. It took me years to understand that wasn't normal or healthy." "How did you break the pattern?" I asked. "Distance helped. And finding people who respected my boundaries instead of trampling them." He squeezed my hand gently. "It gets easier with practice." I was discovering this truth for myself. Each small act of self, assertion saying no to unreasonable requests, expressing my needs clearly, allowing myself to want things without guilt, strengthened my resolve for the next one. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I received an unexpected text from Troy asking if we could meet for coffee. Curious and a little apprehensive, I agreed. He looked tired when I saw him, with dark circles under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. "Amanda and I are in couples therapy," he said after we exchanged awkward greetings. "I had no idea how many lies were between us until that day in your apartment." "I'm sorry," I said, meaning it. Despite everything, I didn't want their marriage to suffer. "Don't be. It needed to happen." He stirred his coffee absently. "The therapist thinks Amanda has some serious issues with honesty and entitlement. She's seeing someone individually now, too." "That's good, right?" "I hope so." He sighed heavily. "The thing is, Dixie, I came to apologize. I should have noticed what was happening. I should have questioned why you were always watching the kids when Amanda told me she was giving you a break from your boring life." His words stung, but I appreciated his candor. "You believed what you wanted to believe. We all did. The twins miss you," he added. "They keep asking when they can see Auntie Dixie again." The mention of Jack and Jill caused a pang in my chest. I missed them terribly, but I knew reconnecting had to happen on different terms than before. I miss them too. But I need to know things will be different if they visit. "Of course," he agreed quickly. "No more last-minute demands or expectations. Maybe a regular schedule? Every other Saturday or something?" It was a start. We arranged for me to visit the twins that weekend for a planned 3-hour playdate with clear beginning and ending times. When Saturday came, seeing their excited faces as I arrived was the sweetest reward for all the difficult boundaries I'd been setting. We baked cookies, built a pillow fort, and read their favorite stories. Amanda remained civil but distant, retreating to another room for most of my visit. As I was preparing to leave, right on schedule, Jack tugged at my sleeve. "Are you mad at Mommy, Auntie Dixie?" The innocent question caught me off guard. "No, sweetie. Sometimes grown-ups just need to figure out new ways of being friends. Like when me and Benjamin had a fight about the swing and then made rules about taking turns," Jill chimed in. I smiled at her simple wisdom. Exactly like that. Over the following weeks, a new routine began to take shape. I saw the twins every other weekend for planned activities. My parents invited me for dinner once a week, making visible efforts to respect my time and autonomy. Amanda remained cool toward me, but the open hostility had faded to something more like wary acceptance. Then came the bombshell. My brother Derek, who'd been notably absent from all the family drama, suddenly called to say he was flying in for the weekend. Mom and Dad asked me to come. Something about an emergency family meeting. Alarm bells rang in my head. Did they say what it's about? No, but they sounded worried. "Have you and Amanda still not worked things out?" "It's complicated," I hedged, not wanting to bias him before he arrived. The family gathering was set for Sunday dinner at my parents' house, the scene of so many previous family dynamics being played out. I arrived with a strange mixture of dread and determination, uncertain what new drama awaited. To my surprise, Derek was already there, deep in conversation with my father. They both looked up as I entered, their expressions grave. "What's going on?" I asked, setting down the pie I'd brought for dessert. Before anyone could answer, Amanda and Troy arrived with the twins, who immediately ran to hug me, and then Derek, excited to see their uncle, who usually only visited at Christmas. Once the children were settled in the playroom, the adults gathered around the dining table. An uncomfortable silence fell, until Derek finally spoke up. "I think we need to address the elephant in the room," he said, "and it's bigger than what happened with the vacation." My mother nodded encouragingly. "Go ahead, Derek." He took a deep breath. "Amanda has been borrowing money from me for years. Large amounts that she always promises to pay back, but never does. She told me Troy lost his job, that the twins needed medical treatments, that their house was in foreclosure, all sorts of emergencies." Troy's head snapped up. "What?" "I've never lost my job, and our mortgage is paid through our bank account automatically." Amanda's face drained of color. "Derek, you promised you wouldn't tell anyone about the loans." "That was before I knew you were lying about why you needed the money," my brother replied evenly. "I checked with the hospital after Mom mentioned the twins' perfect health records. There were no special treatments, were there?" The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Amanda, who seemed to physically shrink under our collective gaze. "It's not what you think," she whispered. "Then what is it?" Troy asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been systematically lying to and manipulating your entire family." What followed was one of the most painful conversations of our lives. It emerged that Amanda had a shopping addiction she'd been hiding for years, accumulating massive credit card debt while presenting an image of domestic perfection. The emergencies that required my childcare often coincided with sales at her favorite stores. The money from Derek had funded everything from designer clothes to high-end home goods, all while she pretended they were living within Troy's income. "Why?" my mother asked, tears streaming down her face. "Why not just tell us the truth?" Amanda looked up, her own eyes red, rimmed. "Because the truth is disappointing. I'm disappointing. I'm not the perfect mother or wife or daughter everyone thinks I am. I'm a mess. And if you all knew that, we'd what?" I asked gently. "Love you less?" "Maybe," she admitted in a small voice. "You always have it together, Dixie. Mom and Dad are so proud of you. Derek's so successful. I'm just me." The irony was staggering. All this time, I'd been envying Amanda's seemingly perfect life, while she'd been desperately trying to maintain an illusion, terrified of falling short. "None of us is perfect," Dad said, reaching for Amanda's hand. "But we can't help each other if we're not honest." For the first time, I saw my sister without the shield of manipulation or defensiveness, just a vulnerable woman who'd built a house of cards that was finally collapsing. "We need to get you real help," Troy said, his initial anger softening to concern. "For the shopping, for the lying, all of it." Amanda nodded, defeated but perhaps also relieved that the truth was finally out. As painful as the revelation was, it marked a turning point. In exposing Amanda's struggles, we had inadvertently created space for genuine healing, not just for her, but for all of us. The patterns that had defined our family for years were being dragged into the light, examined, and slowly dismantled. Before I left that night, Derek pulled me aside. "I'm sorry I wasn't around more," he said. "Maybe if I had been, I would have seen what was happening with you and Amanda." "It's not your fault," I assured him. "We all played our parts in this dynamic." He hugged me tightly. "Well, I'm planning to visit more often now. And next time, I'm taking those twins to the zoo myself. No Amanda, no parent supervision required." I smiled, grateful for his support and the promise of a more balanced family relationship going forward. As I drove home, I felt something I hadn't expected: hope. Not just for myself and my newfound boundaries, but for all of us. For the possibility that from this painful honesty, something healthier might grow. 6 months later, I stood in my parents' backyard, watching as Jack and Jill chased bubbles across the lawn, their laughter carrying on the summer breeze. The scene before me was familiar yet fundamentally different from the family gatherings of the past. My mother approached, handing me a glass of lemonade. "Penny, for your thoughts?" I smiled, just appreciating how much has changed. And it had. The painful revelations of that family meeting had sparked a period of genuine transformation. Amanda had committed to both individual and addiction therapy, working through the issues that had driven her deceptive behavior for so long. Troy had taken a more active role in parenting the twins, no longer allowing Amanda to outsource their care to others without discussion. Most significantly for me, my family had begun to respect my boundaries. No more last, minute childcare emergencies. No more guilt trips when I prioritized my work or personal relationships. I now saw the twins on a regular schedule that worked for everyone, quality time that I thoroughly enjoyed because it was freely given, not demanded. "Dixie," Jill called, running toward me. "Watch what I can do." She performed a wobbly cartwheel, beaming with pride. "Amazing." I applauded genuinely. "When did you learn that?" "Mommy taught me," she replied, skipping back to her brother. I glanced over at Amanda, who was helping my father at the grill. She caught my eye and gave a small wave. Our relationship was still healing, still tentative in many ways, but there was progress. The aggressive entitlement had been replaced by a quieter, more authentic presence. During one of our more honest conversations, Amanda had confessed that she'd always been jealous of my independence and apparent self-sufficiency. "You never seemed to need anyone," she'd said. I think I resented that. I needed people, I'd corrected her. I just got used to not asking because my needs always came last. She'd nodded slowly. "I'm trying to see that now. How self-centered I've been. It wasn't a complete transformation. Real change never happens overnight." Amanda still had moments of falling back into old patterns, but now there was accountability. Troy no longer enabled her behavior. My parents had stopped playing peacekeeper at the expense of fairness, and I had found my voice to say no when necessary. Derek had kept his promise to be more present, visiting at least once a month and taking an active role as an uncle. He'd also forgiven Amanda's debts on the condition that she remain in treatment and establish a repayment plan for Troy, who had been unaware of their financial situation. My own life had blossomed in ways I hadn't thought possible. The promotion had nearly doubled my salary, allowing me to move into a larger apartment with a spare room that I'd converted into a proper art studio. My designs were receiving recognition in the industry, and Sarah had hinted that partnership might be possible in the future. And then there was Jordan. Our relationship had deepened over the months, built on mutual respect and genuine communication. He understood my history with boundary violations and supported my ongoing efforts to establish healthy limits. More importantly, he demonstrated what it meant to be with someone who valued my time and autonomy as much as his own. "Earth to Dixie," a voice broke into my thoughts. Jordan stood beside me, smiling. "The burgers are ready, according to your dad." I reached for his hand, feeling a surge of gratitude for this new chapter of my life. As everyone gathered around the patio table, I observed the subtle but significant shifts in our family dynamic. My father, once content to remain silent during conflict, was actively engaging everyone in conversation. My mother, who had previously enabled Amanda's demands in the name of keeping peace, was now careful to check that arrangements worked for everyone involved. "Before we eat," my father said, raising his glass, "I'd like to say something." He cleared his throat, looking slightly uncomfortable with the attention, but determined. "This past year has been challenging for our family, but I think we're stronger for having faced some hard truths." Murmurs of agreement circled the table. "I want to apologize," he continued, his voice growing more confident. "Especially to you, Dixie. We should have seen what was happening. We should have protected your right to your own life." Tears pricked at my eyes. This simple acknowledgement meant more than he could know. "And Amanda," he turned to my sister, "I'm proud of the work you're doing. Real courage isn't pretending everything's perfect, it's facing your struggles honestly." Amanda ducked her head, but not before I caught the small smile of appreciation on her lips. "To family," my father concluded, raising his glass higher. "Not perfect, but perfectly ours." We all joined in the toast, the simple ceremony somehow sealing our collective commitment to this new way of being together. Later, as the evening wound down, I found myself alone with Amanda on the porch swing. The twins were helping my mother with dessert while Troy, Jordan, and Derek debated something about baseball in animated tones. "Can I ask you something?" Amanda said, after a comfortable silence. "Of course. Are you still angry with me?" I considered the question carefully. Not angry, exactly. I think I've moved past that. But I am still cautious. She nodded slowly. "That's fair. More than fair, actually." "I do see you trying," I offered. "That means a lot." "My therapist says I used you as an emotional crutch for years," she admitted. "I convinced myself you didn't mind, that you were just naturally giving. It was easier than acknowledging I was taking advantage." "Why do you think you did it?" I asked, genuinely curious about her perspective now that she had gained some insight. She sighed, picking at a loose thread on her sleeve. "Fear, mostly. Fear of failing as a mother. Fear of admitting I couldn't handle everything. Fear of being ordinary. If I could make everyone think I had it all together, maybe I could believe it myself." Her honesty was refreshing. For the first time, I felt like I was talking to my actual sister, not the carefully constructed image she had maintained for so long. "The funny thing is," she continued, "now that I'm being more honest about my struggles, I actually feel closer to the twins, like they're seeing the real me for the first time." Before I could respond, Jack and Jill burst onto the porch, carrying plates of apple pie a la mode with exaggerated care. "We helped Grandma," Jack announced proudly. "I can see that," I smiled, accepting a slightly melting serving from Jill. As the children settled between us on the swing, babbling about their latest school adventures, I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. This was what I had wanted all along, not to sever ties with my family, but to establish a relationship based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. The airport escape that had seemed so dramatic 6 months ago now felt like the necessary catalyst for a long overdue reckoning. By choosing myself in that moment, I had ultimately helped everyone. Jordan joined us, sitting on the porch, railing across from the swing. His eyes met mine over the children's heads, warm with understanding and affection. In them, I saw a future where love didn't require erasure, where boundaries were respected rather than resented. "Auntie Dixie, will you come to my dance recital next Saturday?" Jill asked, her small face serious. "I'm going to be a butterfly." I wouldn't miss it for the world, I promised, knowing I meant it, and knowing that this time my presence would be appreciated rather than expected. As the evening stars appeared above us, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. From the moment I chose to walk away at that airport to this peaceful gathering of imperfect people trying to do better by each other, it hadn't been easy, and the work wasn't finished, but the direction was clear. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do for ourselves and for others is to refuse to participate in harmful patterns. Sometimes saying no is the beginning of a more honest yes. And sometimes what feels like ruining a vacation can actually save a family. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with someone you love? Comment below about a time you chose yourself even when others might not have understood. Your story might help someone else find the courage to stand up for themselves too. And if you enjoyed this story of empowerment and family healing, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening, and remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Until next time.